Good day and welcome to Mrs. Bam's Study Notes. The Jakobson model of communication is a communication theory that was proposed by Roman Jakobson, a linguist and a literary theorist. Today we are going to look at this model of communication and its elements. The Jakobson model of communication expands upon the traditional communication model and highlights the various aspects of how language functions in communication. Jakobson's model emphasizes that communication is a complex process that involves several key elements and functions. He identified 6 main elements in the communication process, and he also identified functions of language based on these elements. These functions are key to understanding the different purposes language serves in communication. Let us first look at the 6 main elements. Number 1. The sender or the addresser. This is the person who sends the message. Number 2. The receiver or the addressee. This is the person who receives the message. Number 3. The message. This is the content of the communication. In other words, what is being said. Number 4 is the channel. This is the medium through which the communication is transmitted. For example, face-to-face, emails, and video conferencing. Number 5 is the code. The code is the language or the symbols used to encode the message. For example, English, French, sign language, and even emojis. Number 6 is the context. The context is the situation or the environment in which communication occurs. This includes cultural, social, and personal factors that influence the meaning of the message. Now let us dive deeper into Jakobson's 6 functions of language, which helps explain how language serves different purposes in communication. Each function is linked to a specific aspect of the communication process, such as the sender, the receiver, the message itself, or the context. We will also look at a few examples. Number 1 is the referential function, with the focus on context. The purpose of the referential function is primarily about conveying information or describing the world. The focus is on facts, reality, or the environment. It is used when the speaker wants to provide details about something, whether it is something factual, descriptive, or informative. An example would be, the capital of France is Paris. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. In both examples, the language is used to provide information about a specific fact or a state of affairs. The referential function is all about factual content and is the most common function of language in everyday communication. Number 2 is the emotive function. The focus is on the sender. The purpose of the emotive function is to express the sender's emotions, feelings, or attitudes. It's used when the speaker wants to express a personal reaction, a feeling, or a mood. This function is more subjective and often conveys a strong emotional tone or subjective experience. An example would be, I am so happy today, where you are expressing joy. Another example, I can't believe this happened, expressing surprise or frustration. The focus is on the emotional state or the subjective experience of the speaker. Here the goal is to express how the sender feels, rather than communicating a fact or an instruction. Number 3 is conative function. The focus is on the receiver. The purpose of the conative function is used to influence or affect the receiver. The function is common when the speaker wants the listener to do something, either by giving them an order, a request, a suggestion, or advice. The focus is on getting a response or action from the receiver. An example would be, please pass the salt, which is a requesting action. Or turn off the lights, which is a command. Another example, you should try that restaurant. That's a suggestion. Here, the primary goal is to get the listener to take action or to respond in a certain way. It often involves imperatives, requests, and persuasive language. Number 4 is the metalinguistic function. The focus is on the code or the language. The purpose of the metalinguistic function is used when the speaker wants to clarify the language or the meaning of the terms used in the communication. It is about explaining or discussing the language itself, helping both the sender and the receiver to understand the meaning of words, expressions, or codes. For example, by dog I mean a domesticated animal of the species Canis lupus familiaris. This is clarifying the meaning of the word dog. Another example, when I say bachelor, I mean an unmarried man. This function is often used when there is potential ambiguity or a need to clarify about the words being used. It ensures that both parties are on the same page regarding the meaning of the specific terms or phrases. Number 5 is the Phatic function, which focuses on the channel. The purpose of the Phatic function is all about establishing, maintaining, or verifying the communication channel. It is used to ensure that the communication is happening or to open or close the lines of communication. This function is concerned with keeping the conversation going or making sure that the message can be exchanged. For example, "Hello, can you hear me?" Checking if communication is possible. Another example, "How are you?" Opening a conversation and maintaining social contact. Or, "Goodbye, talk to you later." This is closing a conversation. These expressions are less about conveying detailed information and more about ensuring that the message is being transmitted and that the communication channel is open. Number 6 is the poetic function. This is with the focus on the message. The purpose of the poetic function is to draw attention to the form, the structure, or the style of the message itself. This function is concerned with the aesthetic or the artistic qualities of language, such as rhyme, rhythm, wordplay, or metaphor. It's often seen in poetry, advertising, and creative writing, where the form is as important as the content. For example, the early bird catches the worm. Here is the use of rhythm and metaphor. Once upon a midnight dreary. This is Edgar Allan Poe creating a poetic atmosphere. Another example is, "I like Ike." It's a catchy slogan that plays with sound. In these examples, the language's aesthetic qualities, rhyme, meter, and rhythm, or the way that the message is framed, becomes an integral part of the communication. The focus is on the way that the message is delivered, especially the language's artistic and formal elements. It involves structuring the message for effect, beauty, or creativity. In essence, Jakobson's functions help us to understand that language isn't just about transmitting information. It serves a variety of purposes in communication, depending on what the speaker wants to achieve and how the message is conveyed. Join me again for Mrs. Bam's study notes.